Hello, caregivers and veterans. I'm Dr. Colleen Richardson, Executive Director of the Veterans Affairs Caregiver Support Program, also known as CSP. Joining me today is Joseph Burks, Director of Communications for Caregiver Support. It is an honor to speak with you today, but most importantly, it's an honor to serve you, our caregivers and veterans. As caregivers, you play a crucial role in advocating for our veterans. And as a veteran, I want to express my immense gratitude for your service and all you do. But the words thank you are not enough. I and all of CSP want to show our gratitude for your service by providing you with best in-class support. This year, CSP is focusing on driving our mission to promote your health and well-being through the theme, Year of the Caregiver. We're laser focused on emphasizing the support in the Caregiver Support Program. And we're doing this by listening to our caregivers and veterans so that as a community, we provide caregivers and veterans with the right resources at the right time. Here's how we're gaining your feedback. We're conducting site visits and listening sessions at local VA facilities. We leverage these visits to get to know you, our CSP caregivers, better. Most recently, CSP leadership had the pleasure of conducting site visits at our Topeka, Wichita, Phoenix, and Puerto Rico VAs, with several more site visits to come this year. So a big hello to the caregivers in those cities I've met. I can't wait to meet more of you as we continue our site visits both in person and virtually. We are also gaining feedback through our V-Signal surveys launched last fall. Thank you to everyone who has taken the time to complete our surveys as they help us learn what we're getting right and where we can grow. Our goal is to advance what we offer to caregivers and how. We just wrapped up our 4th annual All-Staff Conference, which focused on improving the caregiver experience. I view my role as an opportunity to serve and advocate for our caregivers. And as I visit with caregivers and staff across the country, I have found that our staff share the same desire to serve caregivers within every aspect of CSP. I want to take this time to share updates about our programs and resources and our vision for the future. CSP is one program with 2 components: the Program of General Caregiver Support Services, also known as PGCSS, and the Program of Comprehensive Assistance for Family Caregivers, PCAFC. PGCSS is the core of CSP and is available for every caregiver of a veteran enrolled in VA healthcare. Through PGCSS, caregivers can access skills training, peer support mentoring, individual or group coaching, respite, mental health counseling, and so much more. With PGCSS, you get access to Annie text messages. Annie is VA's text messaging service where caregivers can receive messages to help manage stress, take better care of themselves, manage dementia behaviors, and cope with bereavement. I encourage you to join the more than 14,000 caregivers already subscribed to Annie. You also get access to other resources like Building Better Caregivers. BBC is a 6-week, self-paced online workshop where trained leaders guide you through self-management and condition-specific care, such as dementia. In addition, you'll have access to a caregiver alumni community. PGCSS also gives you access to Caregivers First. Caregivers First is a 4-session group training program. And depending on location, CSP teams at local VA facilities offer in-person or virtual group sessions. Every participant enrolled in Caregivers First receives a workbook and supplemental materials that guide topics of interest, including coping with anger and other emotions, substance abuse, sleep challenges, and many more. In addition, each session with the series has an individual focus. Caregivers First is excellent if you want to connect with other caregivers and learn new coping skills. Caregivers enrolled in PGCSS can also participate in special CSP events at local VA facilities and dial into national activities. I want to reiterate how easy it is to sign up for PGCSS and how impactful the program's resources are in the lives of our caregivers. The second component of CSP is PCAFC, which provides specific, specialized clinical support services to caregivers of eligible veterans enrolled in VA healthcare who are seriously injured or ill and meet specific criteria. If eligible, specialized services provided through PCAFC include a monthly stipend, robust clinical support services such as respite and mental health counseling, and possibly health insurance. With the Mission Act expansion, CSP is now available to veterans of all service eras. CSP has dispositioned 98% of our applications received within 90 days or less. More and more veterans and caregivers are learning about CSP, and as a result, we are ramping up our support to caregivers by ensuring you are better informed about the programs, resources, and services available. For more information about PCAFC and the specific eligibility requirements for the program, I would like to direct you to our website at caregiver.va.gov so that you can review them prior to filling out an application. Starting May 11th, all of our new applications that require in-home assessments will be done in person. During the national emergency related to COVID-19, VA temporarily relaxed requirements for PCAFC in-person home visits. As the national emergency ends this month on May 11th, home visits will be conducted in person in the veteran's home during the initial home care assessment that may be part of the application, reassessments if needed, and at least one wellness contact per year. We have and will continue to communicate this requirement with you. We know that this may be a shift, but in-home visits are a vital part of our program. We thank you for welcoming us into your home again. I'm also proud to announce that we have introduced a new nationwide service offering comprehensive legal and financial planning services to PCAFC caregivers. A network of licensed attorneys and certified financial counselors are readily accessible to provide expert-led consultative services and personalized case management. In addition to the robust network of professionals, CSP will soon offer web-based educational tools to enhance the caregiver experience. This vital resource is available to primary family caregivers nationwide. Please contact your local caregiver support team who will provide the necessary information to access these critical resources. We are also excited to announce a new resource that we believe will be extremely valuable to caregivers and veterans. CSP, in collaboration with the Office of Mental Health and Suicide Prevention through the Clinical Resource Hubs, is piloting a new program to provide mental health services to PCAFC caregivers. As part of this program, most CRHs will hire 3 psychotherapists and 1 advanced medical support assistants to offer mental health counseling to caregivers enrolled in PCAFC at sites within your VISN. We're happy to announce that these services are currently being piloted in VISNs 2, 4, 8, 10, and 16, with VISN 16's VA Fayetteville Healthcare System seeing their very first caregiver on the 1st of May. And within the first week, we have a total of 8 caregivers participating and scheduled for care. Further, waves are in the process of expanding nationwide. CSP will also hire a clinical director to assist in the program's expansion, leading to full implementation and sustainment of these services nationwide. Respite. Respite care is another initiative at CSP to help support in the fight against mental health issues. Respite care will also help alleviate the stress and burden felt by our caregivers. This great progress in our commitment to making respite the norm among caregivers. But we wanted to do better to offer this valuable resource to our caregivers. So we have funded Respite Liaison to assist placing respite specialists throughout the country at each facility. Regardless of which program you're in, PGCSS or PCAFC, we're committed to reaching every caregiver needing support. We do that by hosting caregiver and family resource fairs at every VA facility nationwide. Through resource fairs, you can access information about support, services, and resources targeted to help you. For example, a recent resource fair hosted by the Washington, D.C. CSP team included information sessions about Vets for Warriors, a 24/7 peer support network for veteran and military communities, Coaching into Care, and the Caregiver Action Network. Every VA facility hosts at least one annual caregiver and family resource fair per year. Some are held in person, online, or by phone. So please contact your local CSP team to inquire about the facility's upcoming resource fair or other events. In addition to knowing what's available to you as a caregiver, we also want to share what's available to the veteran for whom you provide care. The PACT Act is a new law that expands VA health care and benefits for veterans exposed to burn pits, Agent Orange, and other toxic substances. Caregivers, if you think the veteran you care for is eligible for benefits under the PACT Act, please encourage them to file a claim. There are multiple ways to file a claim. You can work through the online registry or contact your local caregiver support team. If you're listening and you're a veteran who has recently enrolled in VA care through the PACT Act, make sure your caregivers sign up for PGCSS and apply for PCAFC if eligible. In addition, there are other unmet needs currently being discussed and planned, such as CPR and home safety. I want to share that our Western New York CSP team in Buffalo went above and beyond in February to provide CPR training to caregivers and CSP in the wake of Damar Hamlin collapse. That incident gained much attention from our local programs and caregivers across the nation, and we listened. In June, we will partner with the Red Cross to create a training video, and once complete, we at CSP will share the video on our CSP website. Some hands-on training is already taking place locally, but not to the full extent that we are able to offer CPR certification for our caregivers. When facilities have enough staff to serve as trainers in CPR, we at the Caregiver Support Program will pay for it. At this moment, we have 10 facilities interested in doing this training, and we are looking at how to best support this. After the initial training, the plan is for in-person CPR for our caregivers, thus getting you CPR certified. Partnership with voluntary service is also in the works in helping fund large-scale CPR training events at several of our sites. If all goes well, we can look to mirror this across the country. It's still too early to know all the details, but voluntary service may be able to help the Red Cross to facilitate this initiative for our caregivers, with instructors coming to train caregivers on site. This is only in a pilot phase for now to see what the response looks like and where we might be able to take this in the future. We also know that many of our caregivers are providing care to significantly disabled veterans who may not be able to fully manage things around the home on their own. We recognize this as yet another stress that we may be able to help alleviate, and while we are still in the early phases for this, there are plans to create mini videos with demonstration and instruction on several home safety and patient transfer techniques. For example, bedroll to sitting on the edge of the bed, sitting to stand from bed to wheelchair, and transitioning from the bathroom for a toilet transfer. I hope you see CSP as the place that can provide you with the tools and knowledge to continue providing the best care to the veteran you love. I encourage you to stay connected with your care support team and coordinators. Together, we can continue to improve the lives of our caregivers and the veterans you serve. I'd like to introduce you to Joe Burks, who will join me and share some of the questions we've been asked this year through email, social media, phone calls, and of course during the many in-person and virtual listening sessions. Joe's our Caregiver Support Communications Director and a veteran himself. Joe, you ready to toss me some of those questions?
I am ready, Dr. Richardson. But before I start, would you share a little bit about you, your military background, and perhaps a couple things about your VA journey?
Sure. So I'm a clinical psychologist by training. I am a Navy veteran. I spent 4 years on active duty Spent one of those years in Iraq for about 12 months with 1st Marine Division. I was the first operational stress control and readiness provider. So what that really meant was I was embedded with Marine infantry troops, providing frontline mental health support to the Marines of Regimental Combat Team 1. So I did that for about a year, came back and joined Wounded Warrior Battalion West and stood up the 1st Mental Health Department and services for all of our severely wounded, ill, and injured Marines and some sailors that lived west of the Mississippi. Really enjoyed my time on active duty, was pretty burnt out by the time I had finished and wrapped up. Those very short 4 years, and then after that I joined the VA as a staff psychologist and did that for many years. I did that for about 5 years before taking on some leadership positions and then moving my way to the position that I now have as the executive director for the Caregiver Support Program. I think one of the things, Joe, I kind of want to share with everybody is for a long time, the only thing I could see myself as was a veteran. So my identity kind of got lost in this idea of being a veteran. And I think it's important that our caregivers and our veterans know that we are so much more than just one slice of pie, if you will. There are many pieces to a pie, and not only am I a veteran and a psychologist and have the honor of being the executive director for the program, but I'm also a wife to a veteran, a Marine Corps veteran who served 2 tours overseas in Iraq as well, and was blown up on his first deployment in 2004. I'm a mother. I have 3 daughters who I have the joy of raising and hopefully making strong women out of. And I'm a Christian and a daughter and all these things. And so I just want to I want to put that out there for everybody, because I think it's important to not lose track of who we are as one identity, but to realize that there are multiple pieces of us. And it's this constant journey of finding who we are along the way. And I just think that's important to know that we're so much more than just one piece of pie or many slices.
And thanks for sharing that. It's about your family. It's about what you do. So many people across VA and out across the nation see us as maybe just that employee or that supervisor or that executive director. Thank you for sharing that. It means an awful lot and lets our caregivers get to know you just a little bit better. And thank you for your service. As far as some of the questions go, I want to start with, all right, there's been a lot of excitement about the Year of the Caregiver. That's your theme for 2023. What does this really mean, and how did your team develop it for 2003?
So every year, it's important for, I think, caregivers and veterans, and especially our staff, to know what it is that we're focusing on. What is it that they come to work every day to kind of, what's the vision, what's the mission this year, and what are we going to really enhance and do? And so my first year as the executive director, that first fiscal year, I really wanted to pick a theme, something that would drive home what it is that is the intent of the Caregiver Support Program. And a lot of the things that I had heard was, that we had some improvement for rendering decisions in our program of comprehensive assistance. So upon talking with a lot of our staff, we came up with this theme of getting to right or getting to yes. And really what that means, the intent behind that was getting more of the right veterans and caregivers into our programs, getting to yes when we could for these veterans and caregivers. We know how important this program is. We know the support that it can offer. We know the lifeline that it is for our caregivers. And so that's how these themes kind of came about. I like to set a vision for the team. I like to set a vision for the staff so that they know what they're working towards and what I'm asking of them to do. So that first year was getting to right. The second year, after conducting 20, 30, 40 listening sessions with caregivers across the country, probably meeting with hundreds of caregivers, both in person and virtually. What I heard from the caregivers through these listening sessions, because I always ask them, what's going well in the program for you? What's not going well? And if you had a magic wand, what would you do? What would you change? How would you change this program for you? And what I heard from them was they needed more support. They said, you guys are the Caregiver Support Program, but I need more support. And I thought, gosh, we offer a lot of great resources, right? I talked a lot about those. The Building Better Caregivers, the anti-text messaging. We have peer support mentoring. We have skills training. We have Caregivers First. We have all these awesome programs. And those are great, they said, but I'm tired. I'm tired, I'm burnt out, I'm stressed, and I don't want to stress out my veteran by sharing those things with them, but I need help. And so what I heard them say was, I need mental health support, and I need time for a break. I know as a mom of 3 daughters, I need a break too. sometimes that break is going to Target by myself or going to Walmart and, buying stuff I really just don't need at the end of the day. But it's respite. And I know if I need it as a mom, and these caregivers are not only moms, daughters, sons, aunts, uncles, they're also caregivers, so they have multiple roles that they serve. They're not just caregivers. They're all those other slices of pie that come with them. And those things don't go away just because they're caregiving. And so that's what I heard. I need mental health support and I need respite. And I want my experience to be great every time I come in, and it should be great. So we came up with this theme of Year of the Caregiver. And so we want to be the caregiver support, and I always say that word support in the program should be bolded, highlighted, underlined a million times, because that is exactly who we are and what we need to be for these caregivers. They need us so that they can do what they do best every day, and that's taking care of the veterans that they love. So that's kind of how we came to this theme. So one of the things that we've done with this theme is at the local medical facilities, you can get mental health counseling and support from the local mental health teams. However, we also know that there's a really high demand for mental health support coming from 14 years in VA from a mental health background in a mental health department. We know our veterans also really desperately need those services as well. And so sometimes it's hard to get our caregivers into these appointments. So what the team and I did is we stepped back and looked at our budget and we realized we could fund our own mental health supports for these caregivers at virtual resource hubs. One of the things caregivers have a hard time with is finding somebody to watch their veteran so that they can go and take care of themselves. And so if we're asking them to come in person to these visits, who's going to take care of their veteran? So instead, we made them virtual. So now we hope to expand this nationwide. Vision 16 out of Fayetteville is one of our first sites to begin seeing caregivers through the Mental Health Resource Hub, which I think is very exciting. So that's one thing that we've done. The other thing that we're doing is hiring what we call respite liaisons. We know respite services across VA vary. They're different everywhere you go. They're different in the community. It's sometimes hard in rural areas to get these things. And so we've funded positions across the country to get to be experts, if you will, in respite, to really help our staff understand what respite services are available to these caregivers. And so that's something else we want to really enhance this year. And from October until now, we've already seen that double. So I'm very proud of the staff and the work that they've done to really get these services for our caregivers.
You really, truly made it the year of the caregiver and taking care of them, and that's impressive. You discussed one program, but two components. Mm-hmm. So what's the difference between the general caregiver support and services and your comprehensive assistance for family caregivers?
Yeah, so we are one national program office, the Caregiver Support Program, and we have two different components or programs within the national office. PG, CSS is that general program that you talked about, and PCAFC is that comprehensive program. Big difference between the two is that one offers an application. So PCAFC, you have to apply for that program. There are certain eligibility requirements that veterans and caregivers need to meet in order to be accepted into that program. And PGCSS, which is really the core of what we do in the Caregiver Support Program, there is no application. We ask folks to go online and check out both of the programs at caregiver.va.gov to see which program they think might best fit their needs. Once they do that, let's say, for example, they want to not apply, but they want to be in PGCSS. They can just contact our local caregiver support coordinator. What I love about this is when they contact that person, as long as the veteran is enrolled in VA healthcare, our coordinators will work with that caregiver to figure out not what's the matter with them, but what matters to them. What can we do for them? And that's one of the components that I love about this program, because it's individualized and specialized to our caregivers. We know that caregivers across the country all have different veterans with different and unique caregiving needs. We see that across generations. We see that across illnesses and disease states. And so I love that we do this intake with them in PGCSS and kind of really figure out, what can we do for them? What do you need from us, and how can we best support you? So that's one aspect. And then for PCAFC, really encourage folks to take a look at the eligibility requirements for that. And if I just think about some of those right off the top of my head, one of the eligibility requirements is that a veteran, in order for him or her or the caregiver to apply for the program, they have to be 70% service connected, either single or combined rating. And then, of course, there's some other eligibility components that are part of that as well. And again, just really encourage our caregivers and veterans to look at those eligibility requirements before filling out that application online.
And I do know that we've got some videos online that show our veterans and caregivers exactly how to work through the process. There's also an appeals process with that too. And again, videos are available. We would always encourage our veterans, our caregivers to go to VA Caregiver Support website. So you talked about the program of comprehensive assistance. How many caregivers can a veteran have underneath that program, and what does primary and secondary really mean?
Sure. So in PCAFC, a veteran can have up to 3 caregivers. One is designated as the primary family caregiver. And so the primary family caregiver really is the one who does a lot of that work, a lot of those caregiving needs. The primary family caregiver is also potentially eligible for health insurance, a stipend payment each month, and beneficiary travel. The secondary caregiver, so you can have up to 2 secondary caregivers, they also provide support and caregiving needs to those veterans. It's just a little bit different than what the primary family caregiver does.
Very good. I know you spoke on it already with the mental health care and why it's so important for our caregivers. Is there anything more that you want to add about respite care? Again, it's one of the programs that's really gaining momentum, and I believe it's doubled in its use of the budget.
Sure.
So go ahead and elaborate just a little bit more on respite care.
Sure.
And I'll move on.
Let me elaborate on both. Let me talk about mental health for just a second. I think one thing that I've realized over the last 17, 18 years, I've noticed that veterans need permission to seek mental health care. There is such a stigma still today, after all this time, after all these wars that we've gone through and all the mental health concerns that we've seen come out of this, there's still such a stigma with seeking mental health care. And I think that that's true for caregivers. I think, what I would want to say to our caregivers is, it's okay not to be okay. How could you not be? Caregiving is stressful. It's overwhelming. And sometimes I think a lot of our caregivers feel alone in their caregiving journey. And we don't want them to feel alone. We want to let them know that we support them. And again, I'm a clinical psychologist by training, and I've just seen this so much over the years, and I've seen it with our veterans, and I see it now with our caregivers. And so we offer these services to tell them that it's okay. We offer these services because we want them to seek out this care and take care of themselves. I've heard all these years, take care of yourself so you can take care of everybody else. And I'll admit, I'm not always great at that either. I'm not always great at that. So I know it's a challenge, but I just want to give them that permission to seek out that care. So that's one piece. The other piece is that respite. That's the other thing that caregivers don't always do well, is taking a time for themselves. And I know many of our caregivers think, when do I have time to take time for myself? And I get it. I really, really can appreciate that notion. But maybe it's an hour here. Maybe it's a couple days here. Maybe it's every Wednesday. Maybe it's every other Thursday. We really want them to work with their local team to utilize respite. And it's different for everybody. Like I mentioned earlier, I like to go to Walmart and Target and buy stuff I don't need. Maybe our caregivers like to sit on their back porch just for an hour, to have a cup of coffee, to read a book, to pay their bills, to do all the other things that they have on their plate. So really want to encourage them to use both mental health and respite.
Thanks. Maybe you mentioned about the travel that you're doing along with some of your executive leaders. You're across the country, you're in Puerto Rico. Sometimes our veterans move. And what does that mean with the caregiver support program if they move, or maybe they want to move like every 6 months and go to another location here and there? What's that mean?
Yeah. So if our veterans and caregivers move, one of the things for PCAFC is you really need to notify your team within 30 days that you've moved and or changed addresses. The other thing is too, with PGCSS, if you move, we want to be able to connect you with local resources at that particular VA. I know, having done all these site visits thus far, a lot of our VAs offer different in-person services and virtual options. So one of the VAs I went to, they offered Tai Chi I thought that was amazing. Another VA that I went to offered art therapy. So that's the other thing. We want you to be able to connect with the local resources, which will be different every VA you go to.
And speaking of difference, many of our caregivers come from very diverse backgrounds.
Yeah.
What's that look like for
Sure.
CSP?
So I've learned, just on my recent trip here to Puerto Rico to meet with the staff and the caregivers out there, one of their challenges out there is most of their caregivers, their first language is Spanish. And a lot of our documents are in English. So that was a challenge for our staff. It's a challenge for our caregivers. And I think not only language barriers, but we see rural areas are challenging where they don't always have internet connection. They don't always have, other people to connect with locally. And so I think that's where a lot of these services like peer support mentoring comes in, where we can connect them with in-person services at the local VAs. Just for our caregivers' awareness, a lot of our documents we have translated. I think one of our documents for our training for PCAFC, we've documented in like 7 or 9 different languages. So we hear these needs, and that's why these listening sessions are so important. Because if I didn't go to Puerto Rico and I didn't hear from these caregivers, I wouldn't be as familiar with what the need really is in Puerto Rico. And so I heard them loud and clear, and that's something that we're looking into, is getting more of these supports and services in Spanish for our caregivers in Puerto Rico.
Very good. The word legacy participant is often thrown around, and many may not know exactly what does that mean.
Sure. So we have, when the Mission Act expanded, prior to the Mission Act expansion, we had just post 9/11 veterans in this program. So we call them the legacy participants, applicants, and family caregivers in the program today. When the program expanded in 2020, we had veterans from pre-1975 applying to the program. We have now expanded the program for veterans of all service eras to apply to the Program of Comprehensive Assistance. PGCSS has always been available to all caregivers and veterans. However, the legacy cohort is specifically the post 9/11 veterans that we've talked about.
Okay. All right. So I do understand as well that the program is going through a comprehensive review. Mm-hmm. Can you explain a little bit more to our caregivers and others what that means?
Sure. So when the Program of Comprehensive Assistance for Family Caregivers at PCAFC expanded, as I mentioned, with the Mission Act in 2020. They set forward a set of regulations that were very different from what the post 9/11 veterans came in under. So one of the things that we've realized over the years is that the caregiving needs of the veterans are very different across generations, right? What VA does really well is understand the needs of our veterans, healthcare needs of our veterans. But when you're caring for veterans of different generations who have different illnesses and injuries, those caregiving needs look very, very different. So for example, our post 9/11 veterans, we see a lot of traumatic brain injuries, mental health concerns, amputations, et cetera. With our pre-1975 veterans and our Gulf War veterans, you're seeing more along the lines of various cancers, Alzheimer's, ALS, multiple sclerosis. The illnesses and injuries are very different. And so what we've realized over the last couple years is that the criteria that is set forward today doesn't necessarily capture all of the veterans and their caregiving needs. So we're doing a comprehensive review to step back and really look at that eligibility criteria and to see what, if any, modifications can be made. Because like I said, that first year was getting to right. And we realize we're not getting to right all the time for these veterans who need to be in the Program of Comprehensive Assistance. So just want to be objective in that and really take a step back and make sure that we're meeting those needs.
We talked a lot about the caregivers, and I do want to shift for just a second about CSP doing so much in support of our caregivers. That takes dedication and commitment from a team, your entire staff. Mm-hmm. So the caregiver program has grown tremendously over the last couple of years. It's going to continue to grow. What would you say to your VA staff and volunteers who are in the trenches, who are working day and night supporting our caregivers?
I've had the pleasure of meeting a lot of the staff in person, and they're nothing short of amazing. They're amazing. They all have their own different and unique challenges at each local VA medical facility. Like some of the challenges I've mentioned, even with our caregivers, our staff experience those challenges too. And I love that they just rise to the occasion. I have, have a simple ask or something I haven't even thought of, they think of, and they're proactive in their approaches about taking care of these caregivers and veterans. And every month I host something called a fireside chat, and I do this thing where we do a kudos corner, where it's my opportunity to highlight the staff. And I get emails every single week from caregivers. I get emails from veterans. I get emails from staff about their fellow staff, about how they've risen to an occasion of a caregiver who wasn't doing so well. And this caregiver has felt the need to reach out and just tell me how great this particular staff member is. And I love being able to highlight these staff because I don't think they get to hear thank you often enough for the work that they do. Like you said, they're in the trenches, and that sometimes is a very difficult thing to do. I know for the program of comprehensive assistance, as an aside, we've received over 230,000 applications in the last couple years. Imagine the amount of work it takes for staff to process those applications. PGCSS staff, we've more than doubled what they offer. We more than doubled the amount of people that they've gotten into the program. So both of our sets of staff, PGCSS and PCAFC, do some really incredible work. They have an incredible heart for these caregivers and their veterans, and I'm just really proud of the work that they do.
So, ma'am, as we wrap this up, what's your message to our nation's heroes and their caregivers? And what might you share with them what the future will look like for CSP?
Sure. So I just want to take a moment to, and I know a lot of you hear this time and time again, but I just want to thank you. Thank you for your service, both to our caregivers and to our veterans. Thank you is never enough. It never will be. It's so hard sometimes to understand the challenges that each of you face individually and uniquely. But I just want to take that opportunity again to thank you for this opportunity to be an advocate on your behalf, to be the executive caregiver, executive director of the caregiver program. It humbles me to do this job each day, and it's an honor to serve our veterans, my fellow veterans each day, and it's an honor to serve our caregivers. The last thing I want to say is I really want to encourage you to focus on you. I've been saying this to veterans for the last 17 years. I want you to take an opportunity to take care of you caregivers. Take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or 15 minutes for yourself. I know it's a challenge. I know it's not easy, but I can tell you and I assure you that it's really important that you do so. So whether that's through our coaching and well-being or through our local caregiver support teams, please reach out to our staff. Please reach out to ask for the resources and support that you need so that you can do what you do best every day, and that's taking care of the veterans that you love. Thanks.
Dr. Richardson, thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your service, your commitment, dedication to our caregivers. It means a lot, and I know they receive this well. So caregivers, veterans, if you have questions, reach out to us. You have a local caregiver support team in every VA across the nation. Go to www.caregiver.va.gov. Go right to your local area there. Find them. Ask your questions, reach out. We'll be here for you.